You have value to give. Every single person does. If you don't think you do, you just haven't seen it yet.
To admit that we have these problems that we have to fix is admitting that we have to put in a whole hell of a lot of work. And people are afraid of work.
Work itself seems to have become a moniker for justified suffering in return for money.
All the things that are said about heaven and hell are true, but not in the literal sense of after you die. You live in the hell or the heaven that you create right here on this earth. Take a look around you.
I think the greatest mind-altering substance that exists is our own potential.
All right.
Can we start off with a cheers?
Absolutely.
For the water?
Cheers.
It's interesting. That's what happened the first time we met.
Oh,
it took a few minutes, but we had to cheers. We just grabbed a few beers. We went outside to the the deck, and we just started cheers, and we all started talking away.
That's true. That's true. You know, technically, in where I grew up, it's bad luck to cheers with water, but it's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess Italians don't like the hydration celebration, do they?
Well, yeah, I don't know the root of that, but that's just something that my parents always tell me. When we're at the table and everything, it's like, oh, here, just cheers with water. And you're like, no, you got to put something in it. Even if it's juice, just anything other than water. Like, okay. Or an empty glass, of course.
I wonder. So I heard that in Italy for a long time, they just drank wine. And because you couldn't really drink the water out there.
Yeah, I think that was true in like all over the world, really, for a long time, because water was so unsafe to drink that, you know, a little bit of that, was it fermentation? Would take care of the bacteria and stuff like that. So yeah, interesting.
Could you imagine? Live in a world of abundance, man. We have water coming out of a faucet.
Yeah.
A faucet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can drink that.
Yeah, we can. Although, you know, now we're learning more and more about how it's not really all that great for you. You know, you're missing out on a lot of minerals and stuff like that. The added chemicals in there aren't so great for you. But when you look at the water sources in Europe and how they actually care more about the quality of the water running through all the pipes, makes a huge difference. And I was kind of exploring that a little bit when you look at just the sizes of their drinks compared to ours. And I was wondering, I don't have the research on it, but I wonder how much of that has to do with the hydrative qualities of their water versus ours. Because here we drink tons of water, right? Especially fitness people, whatever. I used to be one of them, like, oh, I drink a gallon or two of water a day, you know, and then I switched to this kind of water and I drink about, you know, a liter or two a day. And, you know, when you look at any restaurant you go to and they give you these big glasses of water, everywhere you go to, the drink sizes are massive. But then you go to Europe and they give you this tiny little glass and this size bottle of water. It actually, usually you get the smaller one. You get like the half liter. And that's it. And that's enough. I wonder how much is the quality of the water and how much is the expectation that you're also drinking something else as well with your meal.
That leads me to a lot of different questions about what water is.
Yeah.
Ooh,
man.
How does it not it's just water? I thought water hydrates you.
That's what you would think.
Like diet water here in America.
Yeah.
Diet Coke, diet water, diet everything.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that show Down to Earth on Netflix?
No, sir.
Oh, it's a great show with, what's his name? The actor from Zac Efron.
Okay. Yeah.
He does this whole show. Every episode, he goes to a different part of the world and they explore like the culture and different things focused on lifestyle, health, you know, diet, all this kind of stuff. And they have one episode that's in France that's focused entirely around water and how they treat it and everything else. They use UV lights and all stuff like that, whatever. And they had a water sommelier come by and like they tested out all this different water, how some of the waters, you know, the pH differences obviously, but then also the viscosity, like some of them are like oil almost and things like that. And they're super good for you or for all these different reasons, but they dive into it pretty well. It's really interesting. I highly recommend it.
That is really interesting. I saw in Africa, they can drink completely different types of water that we never could. I actually witnessed that firsthand. But I also heard, I believe his name is Stephen Chow. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience a long time ago. And he was talking about how he went off just in Africa for just a period of time. And they were crazy athletic.
Right.
And they could just drink water from these brown puddles. And they were fine. They were fine.
Sure.
Yeah, he couldn't do that. He would die.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of a funny thing where we kind of get used to the things we just keep putting in our bodies. Like, are we going to sanitize ourselves to the point where we can't even breathe normal air?
I'd rather not.
Yeah, I'd rather not either. But the air is polluted at this point anyways.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
true.
Yeah. It's a funny conundrum we're in.
Yeah, yeah, sure is.
We're like taking away the things that are, good for us, for our body to fight against. And then we're polluting all the things we need to keep clean. Mm-hmm. Man, we're really going to like Wall-E.
Yeah. Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely one of the potential outcomes. Okay. It could go either way, right? We could either go to Utopia or we can go straight down Wall-E, and
what color is your wheelchair? Oh, mine's orange.
Orange.
Yeah. Oh, you too, huh?
Everything's orange.
That makes sense. Wheeler. I couldn't do that, man. I have a dignity in the way that I take care of my body. Mm-hmm. It's no judgment towards anybody else, because I could also see quite a lot of dignity in the way that I decorate my little scooter.
Sure.
But for me right now, and the way that I have my temple, I really want to respect it and keep being able to walk as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to keep your body moving no matter what. I mean, you see it all the time. There's people that are 70, 80 years old, and there's both sides of the spectrum. You have ones that are more fit than I will ever be, and then some that can't even walk around. And what's the difference? Yes. Consistency, right? Lifestyle that keeps you there.
Yep.
So you touched on it a little bit. I'm really excited to kind of dive into your background, because I heard a little bit and it sounds interesting as hell. Yeah. So let's just start at the beginning. Where are you from? I'm
originally from Colorado.
Okay.
I've moved 25 times.
Nice.
Yes, sir. So these have been places ranging from, obviously you got Colorado. I lived in Miami, Virginia, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia for a while. Let's see, New Mexico a little bit. Found myself in East Africa for a while. I think that's the most interesting one.
All right, let's jump to there. How did you end up in East Africa?
I got tired of the US, man. I got so tired of it. So I was going to college. I was going to be a police officer. That was my big dream. I'm like, I'm going to help people. I'm going to go out there and, be a nice police officer. Because, that's not naive at all.
Right.
Like, wait till you start the job, kid. But I'm going to school anyways, and I'm in this geology class wondering what I'm doing. Like, what the hell am I doing learning about rocks, man? Like, I'm going to go fight crime. What am I, like Batman? Or I scan things and I know that this mineral means that this guy is over here. Like, no, dude. And I'm paying for this.
Yeah.
I'm paying to learn about rocks when I'm trying to be a cop. I'm just I'm getting ripped off. And that's not the only class. I'm going to all these different classes I thought I spent from kindergarten to grade 12 learning about already. And now in order to get a degree, which I didn't even need to be a police officer.
Right.
I wanted to be a high qualified one.
Sure.
But I was like, screw it, man. And so I dropped out. And I dropped out, and then I just lost motivation and stopped going to college. And so this question kind of comes up, what am I going to do next? Who is it that I am? Because clearly the life and the path that I'm supposed to take and encouraged to take is not making me happy. And right. I can't do anything. I can't commit myself to anything unless I love it. So I was like, why don't I go out of this first world nation and see what the world is like for people with actual problems?
Yeah, that's...
So I did it as 20 years old. I didn't go with a group. I wanted to go by myself.
That's awesome.
Dumbass.
Honestly, that's a high level of wisdom for a 20-year-old to recognize that level of a problem and actually take action to fix it within yourself, right? Yeah. The problem was your own perspective. And that's not something that adults of any age typically recognize. Mm-hmm. So for you to recognize that at 20 and actually do something about it, that's very impressive. So 20 years old.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. How did you pick the location? How did you get there? What did that look like?
Yeah. So I just did a bunch of research. I wanted to go anywhere. At first it was going to be India. I was like, okay. Delhi would be a cool place. Just somewhere that wasn't so stuck in this first world. Let's not be the people that might have a little bit more gratitude for the things that we have. Like not a billion people squashed into a place the size of the state of Colorado, or maybe a little more, and enjoy this. I ended up finding East Africa and Uganda specifically, not because of the location, but because of the host. The host was an orphanage.
Oh,
I was not going on a mission trip. I refused. I treat those, not all of them. I treat many of them with the opinion that they're like a third world Disneyland trip.
ooh,
And,
okay.
and you take pictures with the locals, you go help them out a little bit, and you leave and you get to tell all your friends about it.
An ego pump.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you helped them a little bit, but did you really bring dignity to them? It's this weird balance. And that's an ethical question, because you do help them and you do kind of get a little ego boost from it. I didn't want to answer that question. I just went by myself. So I found the host. It was just this orphanage. And they're like, you come, you give us some money up front. You can stay here as many months as you like. We'll feed you. You have a room. And that's it.
Wow.
So the whole trip, by the way, this was back in 2015. I was there for 6 months. Cost me $2,000.
Wow.
Yeah, with the plane ticket.
What?
Yeah.
Including the flight.
Yeah.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, I'm blowing up a balloon because of inflation.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, dude, you couldn't do that now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so they just, I mean, okay. How did that lifestyle work out? Like you stayed with them. They gave you a room, I'm assuming. And how did the meals work?
Yeah. Oh, the meals, they worked enough. They were fine. They weren't what you're used to.
They weren't 5-star.
No, dude, but they thought, I don't know what it is, but for some reason they gave me enough food to feed 3 people.
Oh.
And I'm just like, yo, I'm an American. I'm sedentary. Jokes. But there was a lot of walking. I kind of burned it off a little bit, but I was eating a lot of pasta.
Okay.
And then we got into the actual Ugandan foods, which are different. There's this stuff called matoke.
Okay. What's that?
It's just mush banana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's not sweet. It's if you had the consistency of mashed potatoes, but it was yellow. That's matoke, and you ate it with like this peanut sauce. And they had like poisho. They had cassava. You started getting into lots of things that were grown nearby.
Talk to me about it. Tell me all about that, because that's one of the biggest things that I want to like push onto I shouldn't say push on everyone, but encourage everyone is to just find local food.
Right.
For God's sake, eat local food. It's better for everything, for your body, for pollution, for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Tell me about it.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so if you need a snack, no fridge, you just go outside to your avocado tree, grab one and eat it. Or you know what I would do? I would hang out in the hammock in between, like there was a mango tree and another tree with another fruit. I don't remember what that one was because I was eating off that mango tree all day. You could just grab it, wash it well, and eat it.
With what kind of water? That brown water you're talking about?
Yeah, the brown water, boiled water. We had a well on the property.
Nice.
So this orphanage made its money by selling water to the local community because we were one of the few people that had a well. And it wasn't an electric pump. Every day, this lovely gentleman named Uncle, this wise soul, like every morning he's like 3 or 4 a.m. right, and he's just like doing like curls pretty much, but he's just working this wheel, just bringing that bucket up and pouring it into this little like sand filter that he had, and then it would go into the jerry can, and he was at that for hours all day.
Man.
Yeah, and that's how they brought in money for the orphanage, and they collected their rainwater as well,
right,
which I think is great. We're kind of wasting that out here, honestly. Like there's free water coming from the sky.
Yeah, I don't understand. Is Florida one of those states? But I know so many states they outlaw collecting rainwater for some reason. Yeah. I don't know if that's a thing in Florida, but there's plenty of states in America that you're not allowed to for some reason. Like they're, I don't know, scared that you might not use the town's water. I guess I don't know.
It could be it. Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense to me. It's just it's right there.
Yeah, it's free water from the sky, man. Yeah. I'd have to hear their reasoning, but it didn't make any sense out there, especially because sometimes in the dry season, because there's 2 seasons. You have wet season and dry season, and that's it. Like there's no snow, there's no fall.
How long
Don't
does
break
it
out your
last?
sweater. It lasts. Each one has about a half year time span mixed up into about 4 cycles, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay. So it's every couple months it just switches.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
But the summers are very, very hot and the winters are very, very wet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this is really bad. It's actually getting worse out there because it's getting hotter in the summers. And sometimes it's either getting more wet or way too dry. So it's flooding the plants and the sun is just killing their agriculture. They have a big problem with locusts now that are came through a couple of years ago, man. They took out a bunch of their crops.
Wow.
So one of the Uganda's best attributes, and we get back to what I experienced out there, but just to throw it out there, is their agriculture. They have a lot of arable land, but the weather is getting worse and worse for them by the year, really, by the season.
Right.
And it's a real bummer because we aren't really treating our soil properly.
Sure.
We're killing our soil with all these chemicals, and we can't just that runs out. I don't think people realize that, you know, nutrients are a finite resource in our soil. When we keep putting these chemicals in them, this is where I'm going to stop my expertise because I can't tell you what chemicals they are.
Yeah.
But if we keep doing that, it's going to be harder for us to grow our crops. So we talk about how good it is to eat the food that is around us. There's not always going to be food around us if we keep this up.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's definitely a problem. There was an episode of Joe Rogan where he had, what was this guy?
Sadhguru?
Yes. Yes. And he talked a lot about that. And obviously he knows a lot more about it than me, but it was definitely eye-opening and scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. It definitely makes me want to dream of getting together a group of like-minded people, buying a couple 100 acres and just having like a little commune of like, we're just going to grow our own food and just be kind of separated from everybody. We'll just get some Starlink internet and we'll be good to go.
Yeah.
You know?
Just stay out. Leave us alone.
Yeah.
Don't touch my soil. Like lettuce doesn't grow in the produce aisle. I know we think it does. It's been a long time since we've seen a farm, hasn't it? We got towers, we got electricity and microwaves and frozen goods and FedEx brings our Amazon deliveries. But man, like that lettuce was driven here by some dude's farm, which is, like the soil's not very good anymore. And it might not always be that way.
I was just exploring this idea too, that there's something to the fact that we're so accustomed to the conveniences of first world living and how it also detaches us from what it means to work, and this idea that we right now we live in a world where we work to make money so that we can eventually retire. And along the way, we can buy all these things that we don't really need. Most of it's for status or for convenience, none of it to really enrich your life. Where if you go back to third world type living or even survival type living, right? If you're in a survival environment for any situation, you're no longer working a job. You're just doing what needs to get done to help the community around you, right? Whether you're gathering firewood or you're fishing or you're hunting or you're setting up your shelter, whatever it is, it's just part of what you do every single day. It's not a job that you get to take a break from, whatever. It's just a part of your everyday life. And I think if we start to shift our mentality towards work and put that lens of third world type living or survival type living towards our work, we'll start to realize, okay, I need to do something that is benefiting someone else. I'm not just trying to collect money for myself. I need to actually benefit the community. And as long as I do that, then I can feel some kind of fulfillment. And then I'm not going to be chasing that early retirement because it won't feel like work. I think that's one of the things that we're kind of missing out when people say like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Like, maybe, yes, that's one way to look at it. The way I look at it is if you're actually feeling fulfillment from what you're doing, then you won't be working. And that's what I'm hoping to do with this kind of stuff. I love the idea of just helping people in whatever way I can. That's fulfilling to me. Yeah. And for some people, it may be plumbing. It could be, it could be a doctor, tons of fulfillment there. But it could be, taking the waste out. Like that's that's fulfilling if you think about what you're actually providing for people. Like how much disease are you preventing by not letting trash pile up? You know, like people don't realize plumbing. Jordan Peterson talks about it all the time, how plumbers have saved more lives than doctors. Running water saves lives.
Yeah.
You know, so I think if we just hunker back down to that, I think we can find more fulfillment in what we decide to do for a career.
Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So in essence, you know, what we want to do is find fulfillment through the things that we do. And work itself seems to have become a moniker for justified suffering in return for money.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I get it. Yeah. And that
absolutely
makes sense. I find that agreeable. I can tell you that they did not have waste management in Uganda. So garbage all along the walkways, the roadways. It's just everywhere, dude. Everywhere. Doritos bags, not glass bottles, because you could get money for those.
Right.
They care about that out there.
Right.
They need that extra 15 cents.
Yeah. What about plastics and stuff?
All over the place, man. They burn it. If it's not on the side of the road, it just goes in the fire, and we burn it every night. Sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, terrible for what you're burning, but I mean, it's another fuel source to be able to boil that water or whatever it is that you're doing, right?
Oh, they know better than to boil water with that.
Oh, okay.
They don't do it. Yeah, they know that. Yeah. Smells funny. Yeah. Like, we don't want that touching. We don't want that smoke.
Funny enough, they avoid it, but yet us here in America, everything is plastic.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's bad. It's all reusable out there, right. For the most part. Because you do have to deal with the trash is one thing. And not everything is reusable in the sense, but they're much better at reusing than we are. They don't have a culture derived around it, but they just have this sense of like, hey, if I get a beer bottle, I know that's 15 cents or like 1,000 shillings off my next beer.
Is that the currency they're using?
Yeah, it's about 30 cents.
Interesting. Okay.
For 1,000 shillings. Yeah, that inflated a lot too. So a bottle of water back then, it cost me about 3,000 shillings, which is around $1.
Okay.
Interesting thing, why the money was so affordable for me out there, because it was certainly not an affordable lifestyle in America, but your money basically triples. So what you can buy with $1, generally out there, you could buy with 1,000 shillings. But for $1, you got 3,000 shillings.
Right.
Yeah. And so when I ended up staying there for a while, I got involved in some organizations. I was teaching at a school. And one of the things we did was started, like for this health organization specifically, we started a fundraiser video. And that was one of the pitches that I used. It's like, look, like you can throw $10 our way, but for Uganda, you're really throwing about $30. Now, that's not a value you can find every single time you donate.
Sure.
And it's true. But here's what's worse. Their gas prices are higher than ours. And they don't even make nearly the amount of money that we make.
Right. Yeah. That's the same thing in Europe too, right? People look at the gas prices. I remember Christine, when we were there for our honeymoon, she's the gas price like, oh, the gas prices aren't that bad. I'm like, no. That's per liter.
Yes.
There's 4 of those to every gallon.
Yeah.
She's like, holy crap.
You start doing the math.
Yeah. Why do you think everybody rides scooters and tiny little cars over there? Yeah. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's illuminating.
So 6 months in Uganda.
Yes.
And you came back to where?
A lost, dark place in America physically, but just as a person.
Right. Okay.
It's like, who am I now? Because you just come back and you hear somebody complaining about something stupid. Actually, they're complaining about their own abundance.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here confused as a person. And so I went into serving others. That was one thing that I knew how to do. So I worked with developmentally disabled individuals, adults. I helped prepare them for jobs and things like lawn care and just a variety of things.
Yeah.
I started working on coming up with ideas for nonprofits, though.
Okay.
So I'm 20 when I get back. So I'm young. Still don't know what I'm going to do. I just know that I have a job that's helping people and I like that. But when it comes to a career or my impact on the world, now I'm drawn to the nonprofit space because that's kind of how I ended up finding myself in Uganda.
Right.
Which, by the way, I'm still doing nonprofit work in Uganda. Same
awesome.
people I work out there with. Yeah, we're still doing that work. We build trade schools. We're working on some new HIV testing for young people who aren't getting tested.
Nice.
So that's still happening.
Yeah.
Still tied. Never going to let go of Uganda.
That's awesome, man. That's really great.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So you have like, I mean, I'm assuming you must have made a bunch of friends there and everything. That you stay in contact with the people that you were living with, and
not as much. I try my best to, but I keep getting money solicitations. People start to hand around my WhatsApp phone number.
Right.
Just like, there's a couple of people that I still connect with.
Right.
It's a little sad, but
yeah,
I can't afford to give the entire nation or the entire village money, honestly.
if only, right?
Yeah, I would. Well, one day, but not right now.
Yeah.
Not at the moment, but I get back 20 years old. So I started working by proposing, hey, nonprofits that are in my town in Colorado, like, I see that you are still trying to get money. You are trying to get funding. What if you found a way with me to make money, which isn't trying to get money from rich people,
Right.
but instead taking a look at your assets and me being very creative and coming up with ways for you to monetize them.
Okay.
And that's what I just started doing. And I found one person who I already knew who was like, okay, sure. I traded my services for a camera.
Okay.
Because he wasn't going to give me money.
Right.
But the camera is what got me started. And then that leads to a referral. And all of a sudden, I'm now this weird kind of like consultant for nonprofits. And it's blowing my mind a little bit.
Right.
Where I would just say, look, I'll take a cut of the money that I make you. And you're no longer a beggar trying to get money from the rich people. You're a chooser now, making your own income, which you can increase or decrease depending on the effort you put into it, and do whatever you want to with that. You don't have to listen to anybody, what they say. You don't have to write out these budgets for them. You don't have to bend your knee for the people above you. You can actually make a change in new ways where you're at.
Can you give me an example of something that you would have them do to earn that money?
Yeah. So in Seattle, there is a beach cleanup nonprofit. So easy enough, start a newsletter, sell ad space, get people out there regularly. And then on top of that, you can start selling reusable products. Right. So the next iteration, which I was not around for that, but I did give them the blueprint for after the newsletter goes out, candles, lotions, things like that, all with reusable bottles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Collected from the beach.
So people would buy them when they go out to do the beach cleanups.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I don't know. I should check in with them. I don't know if they did that. The newsletter was good.
Right.
That one worked out really well. And it not only made them money with advertising space in the different neighborhoods prior to COVID, but it did also get their name out in a good way. And people really cared about keeping the area clean. Very like justice oriented communities down there. And they wanted justice for the ocean. So they, like, it's a funny way to put it, but that's how they were. And yeah, it was a success.
Remind me after this to pick your brain about newsletters, because I've been considering doing one of my own.
Oh yeah, I've got some that are going to come out in a couple of years.
Fantastic.
Sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So you end up in Seattle.
Yes.
Doing that. And then from there, and how long were you there for doing that work?
Yeah. So let me tell you about how I got to Seattle.
Okay.
That's an interesting story. I left Colorado on New Year's Eve, and I'm stepping away from this dream of helping people. I'm now 23 years old. I want to do music.
Okay.
The pivot. The endless line of pivots.
Love it.
Grew up playing music, classically trained. I knew that I had something in me.
What instruments?
Guitar, piano, singing, drums, bass.
Nice.
All of it, yeah. Except for any like wind instrument. I couldn't never play that. I was on drumline and in marching band, and I was always on percussion. I played drums in jazz band.
Nice.
Like
He plays jazz drums?
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
All right.
So I'm so
I can respect
weird.
that.
Yeah.
No, that's good. No, because I know how I dabbled in drums, and not a drummer, but I know that jazz in particular is really difficult on drums.
Yes.
I mean, all instruments, because jazz being so
swing rhythm.
Man. I love jazz.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
yeah, so I build this van. I'm chasing a girl, but that's not part of the story. I build this van, right?
the best motivator.
Yeah, of course. What else is gonna get me out there? My dreams? No. For the story, it was the dreams. But we know what it really was. So I build this van because there's no way anybody can afford rents out there anymore because Amazon's out there. It's like $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom. Get out of here. I'll take that money and put it in a van and live in that. And I spent months working on this. She moved up ahead of me. It's like 2 days before Christmas. I leave Colorado in the middle of a snowstorm. I drive up through Idaho, spend the night, get caught up in a snowstorm. I'm like waking up at 4 a.m. and there's feet around me. I'm like a 2-wheel drive, 1984, like Econo line.
Nice.
I painted it green.
Hell yeah.
Didn't do me any good.
Nope.
I still somehow made it out of that snowstorm. And so I'm in Oregon. Make it through Oregon down this crazy mountain pass. It's New Year's Eve. 200 something miles away from Seattle in a place called Yakima, Washington.
Okay.
Thing goes up in smoke.
Oh.
Blows up.
What?
Yeah. The engine, not the whole thing. I'm alive.
Yeah. Well,
Smoke coming out from the hood. And I'm just sitting here like, no, I'm 200 miles away. I'm going to have dinner with my girlfriend or dreams.
yeah.
And I pull over and it's Christmas Eve and I'm all alone and the, no shops are open. I end up getting the van towed to a mechanic and I get to a like Comfort Inn. Thank goodness somebody was there and there was a Shoney's open, I think, and I went in and got a pie. And I just went back on Christmas Eve and just started eating it to myself. I was like, all right, well, time to open up a Bible, see what's up, And I ended up making it. I stayed there for a couple of days until everything started opening back up, specifically the mechanics. And they told me like, hey, van's done. You're not gonna, it's totaled, man. It threw a rod right through the oil pan. Yeah, it's done, gone. And so I ended up making it to Seattle with a suitcase and a backpack. And that was it. And you just show up, right? And you're like,
and that's everything you own at this point.
yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I had a job.
Not anymore.
Nope. No, sir. And
but you're loaded with talent.
Yeah, I just don't give up. I'm stubborn, man.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, in my opinion, but it's a high price to pay for success if you're a stubborn person, in my opinion and experience. Because for the next year and a half, laundry rooms, sometimes a hostel, slept in the woods. I have an interesting story about that too. Slept in my office. I had a job. Like I wasn't a bum,
right.
Just expensive, man. Like I couldn't, and I also, like I had dignity. Like if, like there were times where the first job I got was working at a Starbucks and like I was being treated poorly for what I was giving to my employer. So I left, which isn't very good if you want to secure housing. That's my stubbornness. That's the high price you got to pay to have dignity in this kind of first world in a way. So
but that being said, though, if the majority of people stuck to their guns that much, then it would kind of shift the culture a little bit to where people will understand that they can't just push people over and run people over. So even though it is tough for the individual to stand by their morals, especially in the work environment, and, not just be talked down to by their boss all the time. If we just kind of set that precedence, if all of us set that precedence, then the culture will shift and it won't be a problem anymore, or at least be a lesser problem, but it's always tough being the first one in the office or whatever.
Yeah, I'll do it for everybody, man. I don't care. I'll quit any job you give me. Easy.
Who needs it?
Yeah, give me a couple days. But the whole time I'm also out there grinding, trying to get noticed in a way. I had no actual plan for music. I was just out there at Pike Place Market in Seattle. I had a blue suit on and a guitar, and I was just playing as much music as I could. And it never really panned out for me. but I did get a job as a music teacher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And this is when I learned the perils of working for local businesses, because they didn't pay me for a while. And that's when I had to start sleeping like in the office. And eventually I made it to the woods through my own accord, because I wasn't respecting the space I was living in, because I was pissed at my employers because they weren't paying me, and I was losing weight because I couldn't eat. And
wow.
I didn't have a car either. So I was walking like 8 miles a day, eating like 2 bricks of ramen and eggs.
Just withering away, basically.
Yeah, a little bit. People are getting worried about me. Yeah. I go into the woods.
yeah. All right.
Yeah,
so you set up some snares and you caught yourself some squirrels. And
yeah. I went to the convenience store and got myself an ice cream, and I went out to the hammock, and some scary stuff, man. There were times, because this was Bellevue, Washington, which is where Bill Gates and, all the rich people live out there.
Okay.
That's where a lot of Fortune 500 companies are at.
Gotcha.
And their CEOs live there. So it's not Seattle. It's not the city that used to be beautiful and now has a drug crisis and a homeless issue. Like it's this clean. If Seattle's Gotham City, Bellevue is Metropolis.
Gotcha.
Clean.
Right.
I'm not welcome there. So one night I'm walking into the woods, dude. I'm never going to forget this. I was walking into the woods, being as quiet as I can, probably for like the second week straight, thinking that nobody by these apartment buildings that I'm sneaking past is going to be awake or anything like that. And I'm almost out to my spot, and I see a light following me. Terrified me, because now somebody's looking for me.
Yep.
So I hide behind a tree. And
as one does.
Yeah, as one. Yeah, I just closed my eyes. That old trick. Couldn't sleep that night. So I wait a couple nights before I go back to that spot. Friday night, I kind of look to see if anybody's in the parking spots of these apartments, to see like, hey, is it okay if I can sneak in here and not cause anybody any reason to follow me into the woods with a flashlight again.
Yeah.
And nobody was parked there. So I relaxed. I'm like, okay, like this is fine. Like I can make it back there. And I'm still quiet. I'm still tiptoeing. I had moccasins on. I'm not sure if those helped. And I stopped for a second in the dead of night, and I could feel somebody looking at me. And I felt it, man. And I just looked up and to the left, and this dude was staring at me, brooding at me from his window.
Oh.
Dead eye contact. And then he got scared and ran.
All right.
I think he's going to call the cops. It's Bellevue, Washington. He's going to call the FBI, like they're connected. Powerful people out there. And this is what I did. This is how you find out who you are in those stressful situations. I'm wearing white pants. Why? I don't know. I was reading a lot of like yoga books back then.
Yeah.
I had a baby blue sweatshirt on. I clearly wasn't anybody that was ill-intended.
Right.
And the guy, he peeked up from his windowsill, and I just smiled and waved at him and walked into the woods.
So he's freaked out.
Yeah. Like, who is this stranger?
Yeah. Did he call the cops or anything?
Didn't call the cops. Did not call the cops. I left a nice note for them the next morning, explaining to them that, hey, for the record, I'm not dangerous and I have a job.
Just not a home.
I just can't afford a home. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm from Seattle.
Yeah.
And I gave him my phone number. I was like, hey, if you want me to leave, like, that's fine. I just want you to know, like, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not an addict. Like, I'm not bringing that over here. I just need a place to sleep. And your backyard seemed real nice. So, hey, and they sent me a message to their credit, and they told me their name. And they're like, hey, you're welcome to be back there for as long as you want for the next week. I'm like, okay.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. Cause I was like, hey, I'm quitting my job. I'll be out of here in a week anyways. Just wanted to finish up the notice.
Yeah.
And yes, they were cool. But this is a scary moment. Very scary moment.
Yeah.
And in those scary moments, I don't know if you ever had these, but the way that you react because you don't have time to think is a real good expression of who you really are.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a few of those for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smile and wave.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh man. Yeah. I'm having flashbacks now. Do me a favor. Can you just pull the mic a little bit closer now?
Yeah, of course.
So that happens in Washington. And now, so you're 23, you said now?
23. I probably turned 24 at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, how did you end up here in Panama City?
So I ended up here in Panama City by a killer deal. After Hurricane Michael, there was somebody who lived in a house that belonged to a relative, and a relative knew what was going on with me and said like, hey, listen, somebody just moved out of this house. I don't have anybody living in it now. I want somebody to live in it. I don't want to live in it. I'm too old. I want to stay in Colorado. Will you please go live in it? And, just make sure that the contractors come in and do what they say they're going to do.
Right.
Because anybody who doesn't know about like what Hurricane Michael did to Bay County, they were like brick houses that no longer stood.
Yeah.
Like, tore them down to the foundation. So I came and made sure the house was taken care of and been a steward over it ever since.
Oh, that's good.
Which I've taken as a real opportunity, because it's not something that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Free house.
Yeah.
Free house.
Yeah.
So I don't waste it.
That's good.
And that's
a lot
how
of
I
people
got
would
down
squander that opportunity. There's something to be said about what happens when you don't own the property. I mean, anybody who's ever rented out a property knows that your renters typically will run it to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's not theirs. They don't care.
Yep.
They're not there for the long haul anyway. So it definitely speaks to your character that you took that on and actually treated it like your own.
Yeah.
And maintained it.
Yeah.
Especially like you said through Hurricane Michael, because there was, for those who don't know, contractors were taking advantage of everybody.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yep.
Just taking insurance checks and doing the shoddiest work.
Yeah.
And running off because they were coming from other states anyway, so no one could get a hold of them. You had to throw up an LLC and then go bankrupt the next day, and that's it. You're screwed.
Yep. So it's terrible what happened. That's how I ended up here. Very big spiritual connection with the city. And that's probably why I've stayed after moving 25 plus times, is because the city was rebuilding itself.
Yeah.
As was I. And because I don't squander, of course, the opportunity, I do my best to take care of the entire house, which is a lot, but really the opportunity that I look at is not people are paying rent every single month.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm lucky. I'm so lucky. So what can I do to make sure that, because I've been afforded this opportunity, I've been given a break, the people who don't have that break, how can I help them?
Right.
That's how I don't squander that. And that's what I'm doing with Panama City Circle now.
Perfect transition. Tell me all about it, because I'm so curious.
Yeah. So I have always tried to start businesses and never really succeeded because I didn't know everything I needed to know in order to get started. Somewhere along the way, minutia popped up, or things just defeated me too easily. And I would just get a job, save more money, try another one, and just be, same story over and over again.
Yep.
But what I could do is get a good business started.
Okay.
I'm real good at that. I can get customers. I got good marketing, good branding. And so I think about it. And also with the consulting experience as well.
Right.
That's a big one, because that was the thing where I would start it and then just give it to them.
Yeah.
Move on. So that's just my thing. I can start businesses. So the idea is I'll start the businesses. I will start the businesses. I will get them going, and I will find people to run them. And then we grow them together. We invest in the individual. We invest in the person running into this business, or running this business and being a steward over it, to the point where they can buy this business back, where they can own this business in a few years, and they're not paying rent anymore. They bought their house, hopefully.
Right.
I'm not going to give up. I'm going to make sure that I find some way to help people with this avenue. But that's the essence of Panama City. Panama City Circle is I want to restore dignity to people in the workplace. Like, I was stubborn. I wouldn't hold a job that didn't respect what I was giving. And I've seen way too many people be working these jobs, like breaking themselves mentally. They don't have time with their kids, and they can't even make rent without their other person living with them working. It's like, you're no longer with a spouse, like you're with a roommate, in a weird way.
Yeah.
And it sucks, man. It's just not right. And so I'm working very hard every single day to make sure that I'm meticulous in my planning, that I have everything squared away. So when the time comes this fall and I execute, I'm making a difference by giving people these businesses that they don't have to have the know-how to start up, but with the right willingness to be able to build it, to grow, and to eventually make enough money with it to buy it. They can take care of themselves and their family without ever having to sacrifice their dignity.
Right.
And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's awesome. And so one of the things that I really like about it that you've told me before is that they're all going to be basically the new age solopreneur type business, right? So one man businesses or woman.
Yep.
And so tell me a little bit about that. Why choose that rather than something, larger?
Yes, sir. I read a book called One Person, $1 Million Business. And I wish I could remember the name of this author. Just Google it for anybody listening, because she documents a very good tale of all these different people who basically through e-commerce for them, they were able to make $1 million in revenue as a business. And it's just them.
That's wild.
That's unheard of, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And there's so many tools these days to where you can just hire people to perform services for your business where you used to just have to employ them.
Right. Okay. So you're looking at just contracting out specific tasks.
Yeah. You can hire designers. You don't need, or freelancers.
Right.
You can, or even like supply chain. You can get blanks now for apparel. Like, technology's gotten to a point where you can spend less than $500 and start printing your own apparel and sell it and make a profit.
Right.
You can manufacture a lot of things now without even having to, go to China.
Yeah.
You can make things at home. You can find ways to sell products, and people are ready to buy these days too.
Sure.
We're in a bit of a dystopia. So in my opinion, I think that there's a lot of money in a certain market that can act as a bridge for everybody, really. And that one person is all it takes these days.
Yeah.
One person who's willing to, put in the right amount of will to actually prosper.
Yeah.
And there's no drama.
So the types of businesses, are you leaning more towards a product driven business, like selling products specifically, or service driven, or both, or what are you thinking?
Yes, sir. Product driven.
Okay.
So there are 3 criteria I have for the businesses themselves.
Okay.
The first one is it has to be run by one person. The second one is it has to do something in exchange for the community. So profits have to go towards a local cause here in Panama. Can I say where we're at?
Yeah, absolutely.
Panama City, Florida. And I guess I already doxed us with the Hurricane Michael.
Not just that, but it's called Panama City Circle. So it's pretty,
Panama.
yeah. Filming from Panama City, Panama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The beautiful Panama Canal out back. Irrigation ditch. But the last criteria is it has to be scalable. Right. And that points towards what it is that you're going to be selling. Mm-hmm. So if the number I have is stupid, that's how stubborn I am, because I'm going to do it. It's 300 businesses. So how do you do that? And it's no longer about businesses. It's about volume of ideas and responding to the market. It's not this, I sat down and made a business plan. It's this idea of, I've got a whole bunch of spaghetti. I'm going to throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Right.
And then I'm going to build off of that 300 times. Mm-hmm. So it's a market response. It's not a business. As long as it's scalable, as long as one person can do it, and as long as I can tie it towards a community cause, it's worth trying. And not all of them are going to work out, but as soon as enough have momentum, then I've got all I need. If I'm making $1,000 a month with 33% of the net profits that I have, that's enough to bring somebody in, and just say, hey, from now on, 33% of the profits are yours. Mm-hmm. I'll help you.
Right. That's awesome. And how much do you think your past experiences, right, between your time in Uganda and your other charity work and stuff like that, how do you think that really influenced that decision there to put 1/3 of the profits as a contractual obligation for these stewards to maintain? Like how did
I come up with the 33%?
Yeah, like
of for their salary?
Yeah. Or for that goes to charity. Like I think that's just such a wonderful piece of the whole puzzle, you know, because I feel like that alone can provide that sense of fulfillment, you know, for the type of person. Well, let's back up actually. How do you think you're going to vet the stewards that you bring into the program? Because obviously you're going to be spending a lot of your time establishing these businesses, and you're going to have to take a lot of time in training a new steward, and you know, you only have so much time. And with this goal of 300, how many can you even do at a time, let alone, you know, if you were to have someone that just doesn't quite fit?
Yes.
And then you'd have essentially wasted however many months, weeks, years, I don't know, on this particular business with a specific person. So how are you going to vet these stewards?
Yeah. So if things don't work out with the steward and the business dies, all right, I'll move on to the next one. But can't get into the habit of that.
Right.
So I'm willing to accept the loss. I will also say that I would not be the only person, or I will not be the only person who is running or administering these businesses as it grows.
Okay.
But the way that I look at it is that you find your customers based on the values that your business portrays. In fact, I really think of it like magnetism in a way, to where each person's values are what attract them to a specific brand or product. Whether you're in the store and you see like a certain sock or a design, the clothes that we wear actually really reflect our values, the type of water that we get. Everything really is a reflection of our values in this world.
Sure.
So I set the values for the business, and then the interview process, which is of course stringent. The most important thing that I'm going to look for is the same values as the business in a person. And I'm not going to tell them what the business values are. Like, I want to see it.
Right.
And I have to know their why. That's the other thing. Like, I have to understand why you would want this to be your last job.
Right.
I have to, like, do you have a kid? Like, are you struggling? Like, do you want to take care of your family? Like, what is it?
What drives you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it has to be a legitimate one. I know a lot of people talk. I know a lot of people want to be that guy or that girl or that person, you know, but a lot of us like to talk.
No, that makes sense. And lost my train of thought. But so the timeline that you're looking to work with is basically not to bring someone in and then create a business with them. You're going to establish the business entirely on your own, or whatever representative would be doing it. And then find someone to fit that business, not the other way around.
That is correct.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. And it makes the selection process a lot easier because it's values based. The only way I can know that your values match the business if you be yourself and I see those values.
Right.
That's it. Like, you can lie to me. I can see when people are lying to my face about who they are.
Right.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
If you know who you are, I should say.
For some it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like, you know, you can't bullshit the bullshitter. And I
Right.
spend a lot of time being a bullshitter. So come at me.
Shots fired.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll fire away, man. Like, we got to be real here. And the only reason, by the way, I have to say this, people lie about who they are. It's just because they're still struggling to find out what they have to give to the world.
Yeah.
No hard feelings, but I know what I'm looking for. And by setting those businesses up in a way which gives a good essence of values, in my opinion, or from what I've built it from, based on what the market has responded to, I can find the right person.
Okay. That's a great goal.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the idea entirely. So how do you see this project, let's call it, how do you see this project influencing entrepreneurship broadly? because this is new, right? This is not, I don't know of any other business model that's anything like this.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to give a lot of value to how we look at small businesses. I would like it to be infectious in the sense of inspiring people outside of Panama City Circle to start their own business. In fact, I would like a lot of people to do that. I want leverage over these, employers, like, not going to say who. I shouldn't just.
I don't care.
You know what? Just look on Indeed.com and hit entry level. Them.
Yeah.
I'm going against them.
Right.
Because why? I want the people who are not entrepreneurs, who are not part of Panama City Circle, but do have a friend or are, purchasing some of our products to say, why am I putting up with this? What is my value? Like, how is it that this guy can sell, when I'm successful, like sell socks and somehow get somebody to make however much money? My goal is 100K profit per person at the end of it, before they buy it themselves.
Right.
This is my benchmark. It's unheard of. That's a massive challenge. It's not going to stop me. Like I said,
impossible though.
Stubborn. No, dude, it's not. It's impossible for me to fail, man. I'm 28 years old. I got at least 50 years in me. I'll either die trying this at 80, whatever. But
there you go.
But I want people to look at that and say, why not me?
Yeah.
That's America, man. That's it. You have value to give. Every single person does. If you don't think you do, you just haven't seen it yet.
Right.
And the best way for you to see it in yourself is to look at somebody who you may have doubted or you haven't seen the value in prosper. And you're going to be like, like, what can I do?
Yep.
It's going to be for everybody. I don't know. I know that culture is powerful. And so if I can do this enough with enough people, that'll at least get the needle moving in the right direction for everybody.
The idea will spread.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that, because I think a lot of what stops people from becoming entrepreneurs is that fear of, I don't know what I'm doing, or that imposter syndrome. Like, I don't really deserve this. I don't really know what I'm doing. And then, they come across hurdles, but the best way to learn is just to do it. Mm-hmm. Do it, fail at that one thing you're doing, and then find the solution. Especially nowadays, all the solutions to every one of your problems are on the internet somewhere for free most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? Watch a YouTube video. Mm-hmm. Like, there's plenty of people in every space that do some kind of educational videos or blogs or Reddit, or, you name it. If you're hungry for the knowledge, it's there to be had for free. So that's one of the best pieces of advice I ever heard, was just do it. Just do it. Figure it out. Like, I didn't know about cameras and lighting and whatever. Not that I'm successful yet, but either way, I figured it out. It's not hardly anything that is entrepreneur driven is that complicated, really. We're not talking about brain surgery. You're talking about starting a business, selling a product, selling yourself, maybe providing a service. Mm-hmm. You can figure it out. Anyone can. Right? It doesn't take a genius IQ to figure that out. Just do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. There's degrees of difficulty, depending on if you're selling things with inventory, but you also have this ability to go on the internet and see what would be the right business for me to where I can manage it. And yeah, like we're sitting in a room full of professional audio equipment. And if you never had this experience before, you figured it out, man. And you're putting out a good podcast.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so. This is high quality.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. I'll keep singing your praises, man, because I know it. I look at every single person like a flower about to bloom. In a way, like everything that we do is much like a seed being planted in the ground, but seed's got to fight through mud. It's got to fight through dirt. It's got to fight through conditions, seasons, and whatnot. And eventually at some point it's going to bloom. And so in the same way, like if I look at what any of our network is doing, what you're doing, what I'm doing, the evidence of success is not there in terms of an indicator of numbers, money, viewers, social media. Like, it's not there. So if I'm going to look at somebody and see success, it's the attitude. It's this idea of, volume, consistency. And I don't rob people of their ability. So I can sit here right now talking to you with, I think you have like 100 people about 100 or less on each episode.
Ballpark, yeah.
And I know you're doing more with this channel than just like the podcast, but I don't think of you as somebody with 100 or less views. Like, I think of you as somebody that's highly successful already.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, that's the attitude I walked in here with.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because that's how I see you. Like, I see that's probably, and without a doubt in my mind, how it's going to happen. And you know, I look at myself the same way, and our friend Ross. But I also look at every single person that way who I'm going to be helping with, like Panama City Circle. And it's why I don't doubt myself and I don't doubt anybody else, because we all have it in us. We just have to learn how to water and nourish that and break through that ground, break through all the seasons, and finally express ourselves.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great perspective, because you always meet people that have that drive within them, and they know for themselves that they can succeed, that, you know, whatever it is, whatever dream they have, can make it. Well, not everyone. Some people are defeated. And if you are, you shouldn't be. Just keep going. But that's a great new perspective to look at people through their own lens and recognize, like, no, I'm not unique in my drive. Like, other people have that same drive. They have that same passion, that same vision. And I think that's a very noble way to experience new people. Mm-hmm. I think that's great. That's a really, really good touch.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I think the greatest mind altering substance that exists is our own potential.
Nice. Clip it.
If you look at other people as though they had fulfilled their potential, you won't think poorly of them anymore. Mm. You'll actually be a good friend. You'll be a good supporter of your family. Yeah. You'll be willing to put up with the frustrations if you would give them the genuine nobility and degree of belief in who they can be, as though they are already that now. And if you start treating them that way and talking to them that way, there's a big chance that they're actually going to become that.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So don't give up. If you really believe in yourself, then your own potential is a mind altering substance, because you'll think of yourself differently. Yeah. And everything you're doing is no longer work, but you're fulfilling yourself. You're fulfilling your potential, like we were talking about earlier. And that's my opinion. You know, we get defeated in life, but we're all, you know, if we find ourselves in the darkness of being lost in this world, being lost in this universe, you know, we have to realize that, like, that light there's a choice for that to be there. Like, we can save ourselves. That's the most liberating responsibility that you can ever have. If you're sad, if you're broke, if you're desperate, if you don't think you have any value to give, if there's nothing in the world, like, all the light has gone out and it moves anyways, and you're just standing still, you can save yourself in that sense. Now, there's a lot of other things you can do. You can pray, right? Like,
sure.
But you can take that responsibility for yourself and say, what is it that I can do now? It's possible. Every single person in this world who has been defeated at the rock bottom, the other side's waiting for you too.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah. That's definitely the way that I look at it too. And funny, you mentioned the religious aspect of it. And one of the things that I guess you could call it, like, my hot take on, I'm not religious. I've funny enough, I've been like a diehard atheist for, like, the longest time, until recently, when I started, not that I'm now all of a sudden, you know, a believer in God or a deity in particular, but starting to see more or appreciate more of the wisdom that comes from all religions, or at least not all. I shouldn't say all the ones that I've looked at so far, and that I know even just a little bit of, and just looking at them through a different lens. And one of my hot takes on Christianity, I think over the millennia, one thing that I think got mixed up in translation is just the idea of heaven and hell, and how we now look at it as the place you go when you die. Yeah, you either go to here or you go to there. I don't see it that way. I think that all the things that are said about heaven and hell are true. I think it all makes perfect sense. Dante's Inferno, right? All that idea that you live in the hell that you created, it essentially is what it is, right?
Yes.
But not in the literal sense of after you die. You live in the hell or the heaven that you create right here on this earth. Take a look around you. Look at the earth that we live on right now. It can be either. There are places you can go right now that will remind you of the most beautiful idea of heaven you can imagine. And then there are places that are the epitome of the idea of hell. And it's up to you on what you build around you. You create heaven. You create hell. It's all about the choices that you make every single day. And whether it's your career or whether it's the first decision you make every single morning. Do I get out of bed or do I hit snooze? That decision alone feeds towards, are you creating the hell or are you creating a heaven? Get up and start working and you'll create a heaven.
So what's the difference between heaven and hell then? If we're speaking from a psychological manner, which I agree with, by the way, what's the difference? If you were to put one word on heaven and one word on hell, because they're opposites, you're building one or the other. What are they? Name that seesaw.
I think from a psychological standpoint, heaven is humility and hell is your ego. That's the opposition. That to me is the strongest opposing force within you. That to me, when people talk about, God versus the devil or Jesus versus the devil, or, the light versus the dark, or the white wolf versus the dark wolf, or whatever, evil, good versus evil, all that. To me, the manifestation of that in us is your ego fighting your humility. To me, that's foundational. And it's something that you have to fight every single day because like entropy, right? It's inevitable. It's going to happen one way or another unless you do something about it every single day. My favorite quote of all time that's basically driven most of my big life decisions is by Edmund Burke. It's the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing.
Whew.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's driven so many decisions in my life. And until recently I was living by it. And then jumping into this realm was me reflecting on that again, because I do believe in my core that I'm a good person, but if I'm not doing any good with myself or for other people, then I'm letting evil triumph one way or another. But that happens inside of us every single day, right? Evil, right? Which to me is the ego within me. My ego will succeed every single day by default, unless I do something about it. It's like playing one of those video games, the scrolling video games where the spiked wall is coming at you and you just got to keep moving forward. You got to keep moving forward. You got to keep moving forward. It's coming. That's your ego. It's coming. You can beat it. You can get there faster. You can break through those walls, jump over those hurdles. You can do that. But if you stand still and you do nothing, it's going to take you over. Mm-hmm. Or worse yet, you feed into it and you lose even faster, right? But it's going to win if you do nothing. And I think that is the number one thing that we have to overcome within us to see success outside of us, to create that heaven around us. You first have to create that heaven within you, that light. You have to let that light shine within you by fighting your ego. I think that's the biggest enemy that we all have.
And embracing humility.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Reminding yourself that you are this speck in this vast universe, right? And that your problems are not really problems, and there's a solution to every problem. And if you see a problem, don't just, wait for someone else to do something about it. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Do something about it. Mm-hmm. To me, that's humility, right? Putting yourself on the line to solve a problem you see as worth solving is a humbling experience, right? Putting your life on the line, saying that my life is not worth this evil thing happening is a humbling experience.
I'm processing the depth of that statement. I can certainly on the surface say yes to that. But if you really put yourself in that scenario and you really say yes to it, like you're laying down your sword in a way. Where do you think the ego comes from?
The ego, where does it come from? Man, I think that part of it is a natural resistance to self-reflection. You know, I feel like when people get irritated, for example, when like, you know, people make fun of Mormons all the time because they're so damn happy all the time. You know, they're so cheerful and whatever, you know, and whatever you think about Mormons, you can't deny the fact that like they outwardly appear to be living a really fulfilling, happy life. And people make fun of that. And it becomes the butt of this joke all the time. And maybe because, you know, maybe the religious aspect of it, sure. But what is that? I feel like that's a lot of people's egos because it's a reminder of, I'm not that happy. That's possible, you know, and it reminds us that we are so flawed and we don't want to face that, because to admit that we have these problems that we have to fix is admitting that we have to put in a whole hell of a lot of work, and people are afraid of work, or some people are afraid of work. You know, I think probably the majority of people just don't want to actually put in the work that is necessary to not let your ego take over. So I think that's one of the places it comes from. Now, evolutionarily, I'm going to have to sit on that one for a while and really think that one through. But, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to really think about that one. I'm writing a whole chapter in a book about ego and everything. And I'm trying to really explore it, because one of the best pieces of advice that I received was, you know, in that stuck moment, I'm actually going to make a whole video on this, was facing my ego and embracing it and killing it.
We have to handle ourselves with grace.
Yeah.
We have to. It's actually a power. We have this weird thing where we believe that there's virtue in being hard on ourselves, because then, you know, we've recognized that I've made an error and that's bad. But then, like, but you never get anywhere there. You're just stuck in this, you know, like I suck mentality. And if you can learn to handle yourself with grace when you make a mistake, there's a high chance that you will make less mistakes in the future, because you don't see yourself as a person that's constantly screwing up. You see yourself as a person that messes up with grace.
Yep.
Tell you what, man, you keep telling yourself that you suck and you screw up, and you know, like I used to throw a fit over lots of things. As soon as I started handling myself with grace, I stopped throwing fits. I'm a better person for it. And that's where the ego comes in, man. I think that the ego is sourced from one place. Heaven and hell, in that same sense, is love, and for the ego, fear.
Oh, yes.
Biggest fear. And everything can be sourced down to fear. So the way that I look at the ego is the way that I think Freud describes it, which is just our identity generally.
Okay.
So who am I if I am not myself? Really? Like, I call myself Eli. I like to drink whatever, water is the real answer. Right. We'll call it Coke or Pepsi. I like to live here. These are my goals. So all of these are subject to change in the real world, because life happens. But I'm resisting that because I'm fearful. And that is where the ego comes in, because it tries to control. It tries to control outcomes. And that's why I think the ego comes from fear. We're trying to control things. We're trying to say things are this way or that way. We are trying to take actions and be hard on ourselves or hard on other people, or say this is the way the world works, because control makes us feel like we don't have anything to be afraid of, which is a really shitty cover up for being afraid.
Right.
So the essence of getting over the ego, in my opinion, is just getting over fear itself.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, that's
a good take.
Yeah, that's what I got from all the religions that I studied as well.
Nice.
I'm also not religious, but I have been very curious, you know. I was like, is there a real creator? We were talking about, like, I opened up the Bible on that Christmas Eve, just like, all right, buddy, like,
yeah, what do you got for
something
me?
to say? Say it now.
Yeah.
And I found nothing. I actually
which a Christian would tell you it's because you can't command him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you mean him? Like,
Right.
that's the one thing I don't get. Well, I understand why people ascribe a personality to God, but from what I've read about the Bible, like, God doesn't show much emotion, more so as he shows decisiveness. But it's personified because we're persons and people.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what I did for my own belief in God is I just started praying. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's like whatever religion is, that's secondary to me. And because of that, I don't even ascribe to one, though I've tried. Mm-hmm. What's primary is that if there is a creator of mine and it does exist and it's, wanting some sort of connection with me, well, let's find out how to access that connection and see what it does. And that's where prayer came in, to where if I pray for things and truly believe it, every single time in a way that I cannot predict, at a time that I cannot predict, and in a really strange way, it happens. And that's what drives my faith. Mm-hmm. But it's not a religious faith. Right. It's just this whole, like, daddy issue faith. Who's providing for me? Right. But truly, before I was in the woods, like, I was constantly complaining about not having a good place to sleep. And so what did I get? I pray without ceasing, in my opinion. I found myself in a place where I did not have any good place to sleep. So I gave my love, which to me is just this force of unification, to a bad outcome and persisted in it. That's the recipe for belief. And before I even got a house, right, where I didn't have to pay anything, from a homeless dude to a dude with the house, I was praying for that. I fell asleep in my bed every single night while I was sleeping in the woods, right? Just dreaming it up. Like Braille, I was feeling it, right? Mm-hmm. And somehow, just the right person came in at the right time, and I ended up finding myself in the exact house I imagined, down to the bed sheets. Oh, wow. Yeah. And you look at that, not to mention I got a free bus pass in Seattle by praying. It covered me for a year so I could do my music lessons. Nice. But all sorts of stuff. But I'll tell you what stopped me from ever praying and receiving things that I really wanted out of life was fear. Mm-hmm. It was always fear. That was always my responsibility. Yeah. So that's why I believe. But it ain't easy. Yeah. You gotta let go of your fears, in my experience and opinion.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, honestly. Yeah. I've been doing a lot more looking inward, funny enough, someone I know posted a question. They were obviously, going through a moment, and they asked, how do you ask somebody for advice who isn't alive anymore? And the first thing that came to mind is ask them. Sit in a quiet room or in a place where you're comfortable and just have that conversation. Because at the end of the day, if it's someone that you're seeking advice from, you probably know them pretty well. Mm-hmm. You probably know about what they would say. Yeah. And if you think you don't, that's the fear mm-hmm. of what the answer is. Right?
Okay. I see.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you want to sit there and pretend you don't know what that person you admire is going to tell you that you need to do, or whatever you need them to reveal about yourself, mm-hmm. you already know it. Yeah. You're just scared that that's the truth. Yeah. So I kind of apply that same idea to the same kind of questions that you may ask a god, or a deity or whatever. Just ask in yourself, and I mean, I think that would be perfectly in line with the Christian belief, because at the end of the day, right, yes. He is everything and whatever, so I mean, yes, you can apply the same kind of mentality even if you're a Christian, even if you're not like me or whatever, it still applies. Just have that conversation with yourself. Look inside yourself.
Yes.
You know, and that's why do you think meditation has been, you know, a practice that's lived thousands and thousands of years, and that all the wisest people, you know,
yes,
meditate.
Yeah.
You know, they're not having conversations that you can't have. Everybody can do it. You just got to take the time to do it. You have to care. You have to have the awareness to seek that knowledge that you have within you. You know, unless you're still a child and you haven't experienced life enough to really understand like how the world works in general. If you're half sane and an adult, you can sit in some silence and reflect on yourself and ask yourself the deepest questions you can imagine, and you'll come up with something.
Yes.
And you'll know when it's true because it'll hit you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. Like a train, man.
Yeah. That happened to me when I was talking about how my friend gave me the advice to kill my ego.
Yes.
And he said, go get fucking cold. Get really cold. Huh. He's like, you either get cold or you starve yourself. You know, go on a 7-day fast or freeze yourself near to death and kill your ego that way. And I was in such a confusing place that I'll try anything. So my ego took over and I was like, oh, but I can't do the cold. I was in the Navy for 10 years. I've dove in all kinds of freezing cold water. The cold can't break me. That was my ego. Yeah. So then I flipped it right. As soon as I had that thought, I was like, oh, wait, hang on a second. Screw that ego. I'm going to go get cold. And I did. And in the middle of winter, I sat outside soaking wet for like 30, 45 minutes. I don't remember how long it was, but like until I felt warm again. And that was just mind blowing. But the thing was, it wasn't the cold. The cold was the conduit for me to sit there and actually reflect on myself. And that's when I started having all these revelations of, hang on, why have I been behaving the way that I've been, right? Why have I been making these decisions? Have I actually been a good person, or have I just been doing good person things because I wanted the praise? I wanted the pat on the back. I wanted all these things, all these very egotistical ideas. And, you know, the more I started looking at myself, like, yeah, that's the wrong motivation. And then I kind of started shifting that mentality, but it took that extreme shock to my system to figure that out and to just look at myself with no more filters, no more lenses, no more BS, no more I'm talking to this guy, I'm trying to appear this way, or I'm trying to be something that I'm not. It was just an absolute, honest, bare naked, not literally bare naked outside, but a bare naked look at myself, you know, as natural as I could be. And that's when I started reflecting on the universe and myself, and what is this connection that I have? What is this connection that we all have with each other? What's this connection that we have with the world around us, with the sand, with the water, with the trees, with the animals? Like we're literally all a part of this one ecosystem. And we have this egotistical idea that just because we're humans and we seem more intelligent than the things around us, that we are somehow above everything else. And no, we're not. No, we're not. I'm no me as this temporarily living thing that is having these thoughts is no different than the leaf on a tree. At the end of the day, right? We're all gonna end up in the same place. All right, we're all gonna end up dirt in this earth, you know. So why am I placing myself above anyone else? Why am I judging myself to be better than anyone else, let alone anything else? And I'm not. You know, I no longer see myself as any better than you, nor you any better than me. We're literally the same thing, you know, as with any other creature, any other thing on this planet. And once I had that realization, that's when I was really humbled.
That's a really good look into you. And one question that I have for you after a very, you call it a humbling experience, a confession of self is what I heard from you.
Yeah.
So if all of these things were emanating as good deeds from the wrong place, misinformed place, what's the correct place to do good deeds from?
I think overall, a good sense of community, that humbling experience that tells me that I'm no better than you and you're no better than me. And then realizing that the way the human race in general has even made it this far is community, right? We're not lone wolves. We would have never made it anywhere, let alone this far, without leaning on each other. So doing good for the sake of humanity's prosperity, not for your own, not for yours, not specifically for that one person you're doing it for or whatever, but for the general well-being of the human civilization, as well as the planet that we all live on. I think that is a better driving force for good.
Yeah, man, that's love.
That's a, you know what? Yes, a much more succinct way to put that would be love. Yeah, I agree. I think that the eternal question that everyone asks, the meaning of life, I think that's the best summary. It's just love.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a universal constant.
Yeah. Life is a love factory, baby. No, generally though, so maybe we can ask this one question. If I'm not the host, but before we finish,
it's a conversation. Yeah.
What is love? I alluded to what I think it is earlier, but what is that thing? Because it's not marriage. It's not a relationship. I understand these things represent it, but what is it? What is love?
I think love is like an energy, like a frequency that is amplified when the thing or person that you're experiencing it with are in tune with one another. Like an old radio, right? You have the ability to receive signals, but if you're just a little out of tune, it's gonna be static. And then once you guys both, whoever you're experiencing it with, once you guys both get it dialed in just right, and the music's playing clear and on time and everything, like that's what love feels like to me, right? It's this syncing of emotions, feelings, ideas, all those at once. And I think that's how I can describe, especially the love that I feel for, the non-romantic love that I feel for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because obviously it's much greater than just the love that you feel with your spouse, right? It's the love that you feel for friends, family, for strangers, for many of us, and I think that getting back to that humble idea where even the stranger is no better or worse than you opens the door for you to love them all the same.
Yeah.
And to not judge people for where they're at, especially when you realize that had you lived that same experience as them, you probably would have made the same exact choices and you would have ended up in the same exact place, because that's just how life is. And to pretend that you're so much better, that you would have done better with the hand that they were dealt compared to what you had, that's ego.
Yeah. Whoo! End it. Kill it. That's it. You just said, from what I heard you say, after I said end it. Hold on. I love my soapbox. Is that how I'm using love properly here? Love is a force of unity which breeds compassion. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
You said it in a poetic way.
Yeah, but I like your succinct way. I'm long-winded.
Yeah. Well, me too. I'm very good at being succinct when I hear other people ramble, but man, I'm a good rambler. I guess I gotta use that for myself. But yeah, man. Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's a good way to put it. And I really did like the scene that you painted. I think that description of looking into what love is for you is precious in a way that a succinct representation, while useful, cannot replicate.
Well, thank you very much. I absolutely love this conversation. We need to do it again. I know we have a lot more to dig into your experiences.
Yeah, man.
And we're going to need to do an update on Panama City Circle.
Yeah. As it grows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hear about my cage fighting.
Oh man. How much time we got? No, this camera's going to die again.
Next time.
All right.
Something to look
absolutely.
forward to.
Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. I had a great time.
Yeah, man. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
All right.